Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to another video. So today I have to replace the gimbal flex cable on my Mavic Pro, which is this part right here, and that's the Mavic Pro. So just getting ready here. I've got a few tools. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use, but definitely a lot of small tiny screwdrivers and whatnot, and definitely a magnet tray to keep all of your screws together. Otherwise you could be in trouble losing one or two of them. So stay tuned. We are going to go through the process on how to do this. So first I would like to share with you what the problem is with the Mavic Pro, especially when it comes to the camera gimbal. And I have done some research as to how to fix this issue, and it turned out that the this cable here is what causes it, in case if it goes whenever it goes bad, or maybe one of the wires get cut and whatnot. But here's the issue. Let's turn this baby on. And it's going through initializing, and watch what happens here with the camera. So the camera never really initializes, and it just goes into this mode and goes crazy. It's still going to do it a few more times, but you saw how it didn't go through initialization process smoothly. Let's see. There you go. So, and it stays like this. It never calibrates or initializes properly. And as you can see, so all right. So this cable, after I've done some research, I found that this is what usually causes it. And you can find this, you can buy it on Amazon or eBay. And here's a close-up here so you can read the number. So first off, let's turn this baby off. So to start with, we're going to be removing these 6 hex screws from the top here, and it's really nice to have a good set of these precision tools. I think at least mine's got the correct size, which is the H116. So we're going to remove these 4 here in the battery compartment and the 2 that are outside, and then we'll flip it around and take some more on the bottom side of it as well. Alright, so with these 6 screws out of the way and put away in the magnet tray, so don't forget that, we're going to flip our drone and we're going to take these 4 screws right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now that we took care of the first 6 screws, I also removed these 4, and we have to pop these plastic pieces out. So use a small screwdriver and just kind of like wiggle it until you see a little gap, and then use a plastic tool to remove this, so like such, and just set it somewhere where it's nice and safe. And then we'll do the same thing for this other one. So yeah, you'll notice when I see a little gap, kind of like that, and I will, let's say, sometimes it's a pain, but there you go, like that. And then get your plastic tool in there and gently wiggle until you get them removed. All right, and once we do this, we're going to uncover more screws that will need to be taken out, and I'm talking about these other hex screws. We've got 2 of them here, and I'm going to see if we have to remove these other 2 as well. So with that done, we're going to take off these 2 other hex screws from here. Just these 2. They're similar to the other ones that we have removed. So your second one right here, and just be gentle. Make sure that you got your screw fit it into the head so you don't strip them or anything. All of these screws are similar except two of them, and those were the two that we took off. We took off here and there. So, and I'm keeping those separately, as you can see here on the. These are the two that I have that are different. So with that said, we're gonna need to flip this around, turn the drone back over, and we will need to use a plastic tool like this, and we're gonna have to work our way around this cover here and take it off. It is extremely tight, so be very careful as you're going through it. So I'm gonna start right here. I put my fingernail first and there, and I'm gonna have to work myself around it. You can feel that it starts popping off slowly, and just work it slowly. Don't rush it. You don't want to break any of the interior tabs that hold these covers together. So just a quick background how I got to this point. I was at the beach once flying my drone over one of the piers, and the pier, I think it was at least a good 200 yards into the water, and something happened with my GPS coordinate and whatnot, and my drone suddenly started the landing process, and it was going to land in the water. So I kind of quickly noticed that and reacted to it, and I drove the drone out to the beach area, and it just crashed in the sand. And since then, ever since, the gimbal never worked properly or never initialized properly. That's how I got to this point. So still fighting this. 4 minutes later, and I was able to, oh, there it goes, it just popped out. Looks like these two pieces right here are the more delicate ones that you have to deal with. I know we're almost there. So with that done like that, we should be able to pop this entire thing, but be very gentle, because at the back end of this plastic thing there's some cables. You don't want to pull those out like that. So there's a cable connector here that we would need to remove. There you go. And this came right out. Set this aside, and then we're going to continue and try to remove our gimbal thing from right there. Set this aside here. So our next step here is to remove the cables, and I think we've got 4 cables here to take care of. So we've got 1, this ribbon here, 2, the other ribbon, 3, and then 4, 5. So these are 2 other ribbons. It looks like they've got some silicones on them that we can remove and then pop them out. And after that, we'll have 4 screws to undo, and that's let me just make sure it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then our gimbal should pop right out. Let's go ahead and get that. So I'll start with the cables. So this should pop right out. There you go. Got a small flat head to help me with these ribbons, and just be very gentle with all of this stuff, okay? You don't want to break them, so I'm pushing them to the side as well. 2, and as I said, these have a little bit of silicone on both sides, so you're gonna have to break that silicone apart. And you may be noticing the sand over here, and also I see that I got sand inside as well, and that's from that crash I was talking about earlier when I crashed it at the beach. So okay, silicone off, silicone off, and I can pop the ribbon. There you go. Let's see if I can pop the ribbon with the silicone on it. Now it is best to break off the silicone. Maybe if I had a little knife, it would work. You know what? I think I might have one in my pocket. Yep, there it this. I'll just cut it. Yep, much easier that way. All right, now with these ribbons all off, we can go ahead and remove the screws. We're going to need a Phillips, small Phillips of course, and we are removing this here. So our first screw, 2, always use a tray. It's going to save you a great hassle. And this other screw right here, last one, and I can feel that the gimbal is falling off. There it is. That's the gimbal. And the cable we're going to be replacing is this guy right here, so it's in a weird routing. So just a quick overview on the gimbal itself. It starts right here where our cable is connected that we need to replace. It's right here. We'll always use a plastic tool to pry these connectors off, just like that. And our cable seems to run below, right in this area right there, and it comes to this part of the gimbal. We've got 1, 2, 3 screws to remove, and then it continues on. We'll find out next. Yeah, it continues on right here, and it gets into this area as well, so we're going to need to remove these 2 screws as well. We'll start with those. And as always, your best friend is this. So I try to work over it, that way if anything drops, it drops right into the magnet tray. That. And here's our first part removed, and I could see where our connector is. It's right there, very tiny. We're gonna have to pry it out. It looks like it's got some silicone on it, on top of it as well. We'll have to break that silicone off, similar to what we did earlier. If you are able to use a tiny knife, use it. But in this case, here I'm able to pull the connector out, almost. And it seems like it has some adhesive on the tape part of it, outside of where it's connected. So as I was saying, there is actually some adhesive underneath there, so luckily I was able to leave it in there. I hope you can see that. And we're gonna go around and take these 3 screws we talked about earlier from here right there, take them off. These are tiny. So we got the first one removed, second one here. Here's the third one. And as always, see how it fell right in there? I like that. Here's the second cover. And we could see where That's all. We've got the second connector. It also has some silicone on it. I'm gonna use my tiny little knife. I'll just cut it off the frame. Like that. And there it goes. The routing is pretty freaky, so when we go back to put things together, we're just gonna have to remember how we took this out. Starting from the camera side, right here, just gets removed and it wraps around. I'm gonna use this to point out, and it wraps around the camera head, and then it makes a little loop right here. It makes this loop and goes up, and there's a tiny little loop for this connector, which is in. I'm sure there is some more adhesive right in here in this area. Hopefully we can leave that in there, because I actually don't have any adhesive to replace it with. Otherwise I'll use some generic stuff. And then the tape goes around and back into the circuit board area. And it seems like we can actually take this piece all out to make life a little easier. We're going to take that off. So 2 fatty kind of screws. Well, I say fattier than the ones that we removed earlier. So one of them just fell off into the tray. Here's a second one. Right there. I don't think we'll be able to get the connector off through here. Oh, no, we might be lucky. There you go. There it is. This makes life a little easier. We're also going to go ahead and pop this other connector off if we can, so we can separate it from the circuit board and work our way in. Yep. There you go. Now we've got the circuit board separated from the gimbal head. Set that aside and we'll continue working on our thing here. And as I'm telling you, alright, so there's another part right here where we have the third connector still hidden behind this other cover. Take that off. These small screws, you don't have to worry about them. They're all the same, so you don't worry about which one goes where. So here's our last one. This seems to have a little bit more it's got some tape in here. We're going to try to remove it or uncover the tape without removing the adhesive tape. There you go. I'm using a knife because I know I'm replacing the tape. Otherwise, if I was gonna reuse any of this stuff, I wouldn't be using a tape. So. once we pull it out, we're gonna see how it's all bent in place, and hopefully we can do the same thing for the new one. The new one also does have adhesive on it, so which is great. I'm glad they do that. So we need to work this last connector out this way. And then we should be able to pull it out now. There it is. It's almost there. Okay. And this is all of the bends that we need to make on the new one. All right. Move that out of the way. So, yeah. You just have to be patient. That's what I say. All right, so in this step, we're gonna look at where we should bend this thing, this ribbon. So we've got a few bends to make before we insert it into the gimbal. So the first one, if you look, we've got the big connector right here that connects to the board, and then we go straight and we see this other connector here, and they're giving us, actually there are some directions right here, if you could see, as to where the bends should be in which direction. So this connector here will bend it right at the edge of this other ribbon, so we'll make that bend. We have some adhesive already in here. We'll take the tape off of it when we insert it into the gimbal. And then you come straight, there's also this other connector, and you could see also the signs, and we're gonna bend it right here. It's like that, and that's pretty much all the bends we need to make until we kind of wiggle it into the gimbal. So where we're starting at, let's grab our gimbal. Let me get myself oriented here. So we grab it just like this with the camera facing down, and the part here to the back, and then you look to the side. There is a connection, our second connector, I believe. Yes, our second connector. We go right in that area, and we grab the end of our ribbon, right, and we line it up just like that, and we go right through the hole with this all the way, and we bring our connector through. And I think at this point the only tape we want to remove to uncover the adhesive is this here. Let's go ahead and do that. And sorry if there's any background noise. I know family are doing things downstairs and I'm up here. All right. So the first one we're going to take care of is, of course, the last connector. We'll connect that, and then we'll work our way back to every other connector. So we'll get them all finished up. So here we remove the tape so we can use the adhesive, and we just...
Alright, so my son had joined, so you might hear him in the background. So it took me about 10 minutes to get this this ribbon through the first two connectors, and I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, this has not been easy, so it's not the easiest thing to do, especially with this bend right here on the second connector, because you have to put this on, connect the last connector on, and then tuck the second bend into this little hole before you can continue. So I'm through those two, and I've got the last two here, which these last two are pretty straightforward. So remember when we peeled this tape off, I kept it in place. Didn't want to get rid of it because I knew we were going to use it. So I'm going to remove this other part of the adhesive and cover it. Come back over. I always try to plug the connector before I put the tape, or before I stick it into the adhesive part. So slowly fit the connector in place and snap it onto the female part. There you go, just like that. Then press on the adhesive and put the tape over it. And with that, we are complete with all of our three connectors. We can start putting some covers back on. Anyway, we're going to start with this last one here that we had removed, which was this guy. Right there. And our little tools back. Be careful not to lose any of these screws, they're very tiny. That could be a pain.
Now we put back the second cover. Second cover goes just like this. Fit it in place and continue on with the screws. This guy here takes 3 of them. Alright, so now it's time for our last video, and as I was saying, make sure you don't pinch this cable running right through the middle. So center it, you'll feel it. And then all of the...
So just a quick note here, as I was putting the covers back on, this guy here is what goes on to the very first one. I had switched them. So they have these little pins, small pins that fit in the tiny holes, and it won't let you swap them, or switch them. So I ran into that, my bad. Now I'm going to finish up putting the covers back on, now that they're in the correct places. There we go. And we go to this one here. Now everything should fit perfectly on this. Yep, I did. If you hear any noise in the background, that's just the kids playing in their room, you know. And you really can't control 3 kids, 4, 8, and 10 years old. So you just have to let them be. Alright, there you go. We'll put our covers back on. Oops. Make sure that everything is nice and snug. You don't really need to tighten these things. These pretty hard, so. Alright, now it's time to put the circuit board back in place. And we should be good to put everything back in. Alright, so this is the hole we used earlier. We go through it right here. Up and we go this way. I think we have to fit the other cable with it, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so I went back to my videos and looked. The only thing that needs to go through this opening right here in the gimbal is the connector itself. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. Let's connect this piece. You know, wiggle it so you feel that it's in place, and then you press it in, just like that. Yep. And then this ground wire, I'll just go back over it right here. And there you go. Now, if you remember, we had those 2 screws that I called fatty. I'm going to grab one of them. These are stainless steel looking screws. First one in. go. Yeah, they're kind of tucked in right behind the gimbal, but at the same time they're easy to get to. So fit right in. Oops, drop it again. Hope everything stays good. Alright. Just double check on my bands, see if everything looks good. So far nothing has changed or anything.
Alright, so now we're going to get into putting our gimbal back in place. And we'll start by fishing this wire or power cable in there first. So we'll fish it through the same hole that we pulled it out of. Let's see. You can use the help of a screwdriver or whatnot to guide your cable. And then we are going to align the 4 holes. Things basically should just fall in place, just like that, and hold it just like that. And we have our 4 screws that we need to put back, and they're all Phillips heads, and they're all also the same, so should be no mistakes. Alright, so now that we got the gimbal back in place, we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on. Starting with the cable here, we need to connect it first. So do it just like so. And then, and if you recall, we had some trouble with the pulling this out. It was pretty kind of hard to pull out. Let's see how easy and whatnot will go in. But before I go all the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a battery back on this thing and turn it on and see how the gimbal or how the camera will react. Here's my battery. I guess I have to double click. So battery is fully charged. There we go. And we're gonna take a look at the camera. See how it does. Let's see, it seems like it's initializing. Let's see if it reacts any differently than it's supposed to. So far things seem to be good. So it was totally that connector that did it, or that cable that did it. It was definitely the cable that was causing the issue. All right. So let's turn it back off. And we can continue the assembly, because what I was trying to avoid is once I pop this thing is in place, I didn't want to go back and reopen it if I have to. So now that we tested and everything turned out good, I'm going to go ahead and snap it back in place. You can hear it snapping. There you go. Almost sounds like it's cracking, but not really. There you go. All is good. And just we're working the process in a reverse way. We will put back these 2 covers, one on the right and the other one on the left. I think this is the one that goes on the right. Everything basically just snaps in place. And if you remember, these 2 screws over here, the back ones were different from the front ones. and those are the two I put separately in a separate place on my magnet tray. So that's what I'm going to start with. Put those on first and proceed. I think the difference is the thread sizes and the head size as well. I'm not sure why those are the only two that were different, but yeah, that's what DJI decided to do. Snug, not too tight, because we're screwing into plastic, so you really don't want to put too much pressure on things. So, all right, and now we've got the reverse it back, and we get our screws in place, and we should be good to go. I hope you guys find this video useful, and I hope it helps a lot of folks. If you have the same problem as I am, I would say the process overall was pretty easy. It's just a little bit tedious, especially when it came to putting the cable back in the gimbal. It was a bit challenging, but it's definitely doable. The cable can be found on Amazon or other websites like eBay and whatnot for really cheap, 10 to 15 bucks, and you can solve your issue and get your drone back to work. So all right, that should do. I have to say that I might have forgot to put the two screws in here. I'll reopen and see if I forgot to do that or not. Yep, that's what I thought. There was a couple screws still sitting on my magnet tray. Told me that, hey, you missed something. There you go. Luckily, it's they're too easy to get to. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. It wasn't too boring. There's a lot of tedious steps here that needs to be done. If you like this video, please give us a like and a thumbs up. And I hope it gets your drone back into working and operational, so you can take some good memories. Thank you, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.